they talking real loud, spreading no lie, trying to bring me down. Enemies lurking, but I won't back away. Got a vision in my mind, I'm here to stay. With my crew beside me, we rise like a tide. When the storm gets rough, we ain't gonna hide. Propaganda swirling, but it won't touch me. Only love around us, how it's gonna be. Keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track. In the city lights where dreams collide, we hustle through the night, fire in our stride. Whispers in the dark can't dim my glow. With rhythm in my soul, I'm ready for the show. We break the chains, rewrite the rules. In this concrete jungle where nobody's fools. Unity sings louder than the lies they scheme. In the heart of the struggle, we dare to dream. Keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track.
Another Queen Ahmadiyyah production.
Haze on the corner, they talking real loud, spreading no lie, trying to bring me down. Enemies lurking, but I won't back away. Got a vision in my mind, I'm here to stay. With my crew beside me, we rise like a tide. When the storm gets rough, we ain't gonna hide. Propaganda swirling, but it won't touch me. Only love around us, how it's gonna be. Keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track. In the city lights where dreams collide, we hustle through the night, fire in our stride. Whispers in the dark can't dim my glow. With rhythm in my soul, I'm ready for the show. We break the chains, rewrite the rules. In this concrete jungle where nobody's fools. Unity sings louder than the lies they scheme. In the heart of the struggle, we dare to dream. Keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track. Haze on the corner, they talking real loud, spreading no lie, trying to bring me down. Enemies lurking, but I won't back away. Got a vision in my mind, I'm here to stay. With my crew beside me, we rise like a tide. When the storm gets rough, we ain't gonna hide. Propaganda swirling, but it won't touch me. Only love around us, how it's gonna be. Keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track. In the city lights where dreams collide, we hustle through the night, fire in our stride. Whispers in the dark can't dim my glow. With rhythm in my soul, I'm ready for the show. We break the chains, rewrite the rules. In this concrete jungle where nobody's fools. Unity sings louder than the lies they scheme. In the heart of the struggle, we dare to dream.
All right. Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning back in once again to the original Queen Ahmadiyyah Shakur show. I'm your host, Queen Ahmadiyyah Shakur, and this is your Sunday Vitamins. So as you're coming in, please feel free to go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Be sure to click that notification bell and click the word all so you're notified each time the Queen Goddess goes live. Okay, and also don't forget to double check and make sure you're still subscribed, especially if you have not been receiving your notifications. Okay, so hello, Claudette, Deronda, Emperor Rex, Latasha J, Quiet Storm, Desmond. Okay, let's get into it. Leon, Ashkan. All right, Shalavit is here. Infinite Vibe is in the virtual building. Coco Marshmallows. Okay, with that all being said, hey, Nubia Ra. So let's get ready to get into it. Everybody hit that like button. I see you, BB, Byron. Okay, so shout out to all of my loyal royals and everyone tuned into the Queen. I see you, Michael. And a big shout out to my moderators because y'all know they be putting in work. All right, shout out to Juju, 57 Beige Fox. Okay, so let's get this party started. Derek, I see you. Okay, so let's have a brief word from my sponsor at 12 Tribes, and then we'll get started.
Do not buy 12 Tribes on Earth hair growth oil and hair magic elixir unless you want super healthy, gorgeous hair that grows. They have a whole line of amazing hair growth products, including hair growth leave-in conditioner spray, hair growth shampoo, hair growth spray, and hair growth butter. I'm starting to sense a theme here. They include quality natural ingredients. They smell amazing, and you can see the results for yourself. So if you're looking for healthy hair growth for your natural or relaxed hair, try 12 Tribes on Earth today.
Okay, so don't forget you can purchase 12 Tribes hair oil at Etsy.com. Just look for Lisa Crafts. You can also find it at Walmart.com. Okay, so let me say, there seems to be people are saying to send emails to Texas legislators and press for Carmelo Anthony. According to the Sixth Amendment, he is being denied a jury of his peers. Demand justice by way of a special prosecutor by going to BriochCallToAction.com. Well, here's the thing. As I told you all, that would be a very good grounds for appeal in the event that he is convicted. That would be a very good grounds for appeal because there is not one black person on the jury. Okay. And so maybe people should just wait and see how that's going to pan out because that's a good excuse for a jury. I mean, for an appeal. Now, with that being said, let's talk about it because I was listening to Queen Sheba's live last night, and I'm glad I did. Now, she says that Carmelo was not jumped. Okay, she said that may have gotten confused because they said he was going back and forth with about 4 guys, but it was a verbal back and forth, not physical. Okay, but so nonetheless, these witnesses, some of them were telling lies, contradicting stories, changing their stories. A lot of I don't recall, I don't remember, I don't know. And then the guy Eddie, who's the key witness, was definitely lying. He got caught in quite a few lies because the defense had the receipts on him. So I thought that was very interesting. And he's the one, and the reason he's the key witness, but he's also the common denominator. Okay, because he was friends with both Austin and Carmelo. Now, I see someone posted from the American Freedom Legal Fund that Austin was kicked off of the team. This is on X. I just saw this when I clicked on my X account. So let's go to this because I did mention this also in a TikTok that I just did this morning. Likes up, everyone, please like and share. Songwriter Sunny says, sounds like jump to me. I mean, here's the thing I find interesting though. Nick at Night said that they didn't get to see the clear video. That the jurors were the only ones who got to see that footage. And I think everyone else just saw the grainy tape, which is very interesting because why would they do that? Sounds like it's something they don't want everybody to see, if you ask me. Okay, I hope this doesn't have any music or anything. Hold on, let's see here.
Head track coach testified that Austin Metcalf was not.
Oh, yes, this is Queen Sheba. Okay, somebody put this on X. Okay, yeah, this is her voice. I know her voice. Okay, so let's go back. Here we go.
Head track coach testified that Austin Metcalf was not supposed to be at that track meet and that he had kicked Austin Metcalf off the track team because the previous track meet, he became upset with Austin and Hunter because they left the track meet early to go fishing. And as a result, he kicked Austin off the track team. His exact words, I didn't need him there. He said Austin had a crappy, this was his words, he had a crappy throwing season. I didn't need him there, and I kicked him off the team. Under oath. Austin Metcalf, according to his own coach, was not supposed to be there. He was kicked off the team. His words was, I didn't need him there, but he allowed him to come and help out because Austin Metcalf wanted to prove himself.
Did y'all hear that? Did y'all hear that? Now I want you to pay attention because the narrative that was being painted and pushed at first was that it was Carmelo who wasn't supposed to be there because he wasn't participating and that he was suspended from school. But none of that was true. None of that was true. And also, people are saying that Frisco is very racist. Now, I have never been there. But Nika Knight said that it does seem to be very racist. And even someone who lives there said that it was very racist when they were in Queen Sheba's chat last night. Okay, I saw them saying that they're here and that it's very racist. So I find it all very interesting. Now, with that all being said, let's go to this TikTok. Likes up, everyone, please like and share. Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Ahmadiyyah Shakur. And so here's another update on the Carmelo Anthony trial. Now this is coming from Queen Sheba. You can follow her on YouTube at Queen Sheba Darling. She's down there, boots on the ground, so she's in the court and getting the details. So let's get into it. Now, she says Carmelo did not get jumped. Okay, he did not get jumped, and that she believes that that just got mixed up because there was a back and forth, but it was a back and forth verbal, okay, not a physical altercation. Okay, so please pay attention. Now, one of the witnesses testified that prior to the altercation, that he himself, Austin, Hunter, and Luke were going back and forth with Carmelo, and they were telling him to leave. Okay, please pay attention. Now, some of the witnesses changed their testimony from what they previously stated to detectives in their statements, okay? Because when the defense was cross-examining some of them and were asking certain questions, their answers were different. And then they would have to pull out the transcripts to remind them of what they actually said. Okay, please pay attention. For example, one of the witnesses was asked the question of, did he tell the detective that he knew Carmelo and that Carmelo had been under their tent before? And he said no. Well, then they pulled out the transcripts that said otherwise. Okay, please pay attention. Now, the key witness was the guy named Eddie, and they also said that Eddie was the common denominator because he was friends with both Carmelo and with Austin. Okay, he looked at Austin as like a brother, but he seemed to try to distance himself from Carmelo, basically acting as though they weren't really friends, that he just knew him because he was friends with Carmelo's ex-girlfriend, okay, because the parents were friends. Okay, so please pay attention. Now, though he was trying to distance himself and acting as though they weren't really friends, well, the defense proceeded to pull out receipts. They had photographs, and evidence and things of where he had invited, Carmelo to family night at their home, to a grandmother's birthday party or something like that. Pictures of them on the track together, laughing and talking, showing that they were basically good friends. Okay, not just, associates, as he was trying to make it seem, someone that he barely knew. Okay, please pay attention. And previously, it has been stated that Hunter was never involved in it, that it was just Austin and Carmelo. But one of the witnesses clearly said that Hunter hopped in, said that they were arguing and Hunter hopped in, and said that Hunter likes to defend his brother. Okay, so please pay attention. Now, no one claimed that Hunter put hands on Carmelo, but everyone did say that Austin put hands on Carmelo. Okay, please pay attention. Also, another thing that she cleared up was that Carmelo was not suspended. Okay, there were people saying that he was suspended, but he actually wasn't. He was there for an event, and he was going to be competing that day. And then also, Austin was kicked off of the track team, but he was there to try to supposedly prove himself to his coach. Okay, so please pay attention. Now, in my opinion, it seems as though the witnesses are trying to give as little culpability to Austin as possible. And I'm sure that's because they're all his friends and they're all staying on code, it seems. Because it seems like they were trying to minimize, okay, what Austin did. Okay, they were asking, the state was asking them, did you feel like this was self-defense or red rum? And they all said red rum. And then who did you think was the instigator? And then they would say Carmelo. But my thing is, why would the prosecution be asking witnesses these sort of questions? Because whatever they say, they're not experts, so it would just be what they think, which is nothing but speculation. I'm just wondering why the defense didn't object to that on the grounds of speculation, to be asking children, because some of these witnesses, at least two, I believe, were 16 years old. Okay, so why would you be asking them whether or not something is self-defense or red rum? How would they know? Okay, I'm pretty sure they don't understand the law fully enough to make that sort of choice. Okay, so I just thought that was very interesting. Please pay attention. Yeah, I absolutely thought it was interesting. And I thought that should have been stricken on the grounds of speculation. Why are you asking them? I get you're trying to prove your point and that it was in fact murder, not self-defense. That's your job. But asking the teenagers, that was just crazy to me. Now, Ghostwriter says Eddie was clout chasing, fake recording the fight of a friend that has been over your house. Well, you know what I think that was, beloved? He likely was clout chasing, but I think that he actually recorded it. I don't think he was faking. I think that's just what he's saying now. And I think that possibly that video was deleted. Okay, because we heard about a recording from the beginning of this whole situation. We heard that someone had recorded on their phone. And now all of a sudden, Eddie is saying that he was pretending to record. Now they say that the defense asked him or mentioned something to him about holding his hands up high over his head, as though he was really recording. So, with that all being said, why would you pretend that you're recording something? I believe that he absolutely was recording, and then he says that the police took his phone. Now, I'm just wondering what happened to that video, because I don't think that he was fake recorded. Why would you even do that? And we know that, and he said, he admitted, according to Queen Sheba, he admitted that he thought they were going to get into a fight. So that's absolutely why he had that phone up in the air. And I think he was recording. But what got recorded on there was likely something they don't want anyone to see. And which is also, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, why they likely only showed the clear video footage to the jurors and not to anyone else. DJ Big Six said deleted evidence. It could absolutely be the case. I mean, I just find it all very interesting. And knowing that they're supposed to be so racist down there, I put nothing past them. But here's a video that you won't see of Carmelo. They don't want him to be viewed as just being a regular everyday teenager.
That's the cruiser going on? Yeah, that's the cruiser going on. That's freedom of the city. I got him, Kayla. I got him. I got him.
Carmelo Anthony, class of 2025, Centennial High School, Frisco, Texas.
Yeah, but I lamb, baby.
Okay, so definitely a sad set of circumstances at the end of the day. I mean, for Austin's family and for his. But I will say this. One thing that Queen Sheba said is that she noticed that one of the witnesses kept looking somewhere, and she thought at first he was looking at one of the jurors, but he was fixated. He had his eyes trained on someone specifically. And so she leaned back to see whom he was looking at, and she said that he was looking at Mr. Metcalf. And Mr. Metcalf was nodding, like telling him how to answer. That's what she said. That he was nodding, basically telling him what to say when he's answering, like yes or no. Mr. Metcalf is Austin and Hunter's father. Okay? So that's what she said. So that is very interesting. Okay? Likely another reason they don't want this recorded for everyone to see. Now, with that being said, we're going to go to some more of what Queen Sheba said. But before we do, let's go to this news coverage, because I believe they have this attorney on there. Let me check. Let me double check really quick. Yes. Niyama Ramani. If you all remember, he had a lot to say during the Diddy trial. He's supposed to be a legal expert per se. So let's see what he has to say about all of this. Also, I will say that Queen Sheba said that the prosecution was doing a very stellar job, basically. I'm paraphrasing, but she said they're doing a good job. They're very likable. They're engaging. They're very passionate. And basically, it seems like the defense is not on the same level as them. So I hope they amp it up. Okay, because now the prosecution has rested. The defense will start bringing their witnesses. I think they've already started calling their witnesses, but it'll be all on them Monday.
Welcome back into Live Now from Fox. My name is Alexandra Goldberg, and now we head out to Texas for our next story. Court is in session this Saturday for the murder trial of Frisco Independent School District student Carmelo Anthony. He's accused of fatally stabbing 17-year-old Austin Metcalf at a 2025 track meet. Take a look here. We're going to pop up this social media post on your screen. Fox 4 News in Dallas saying testimony was resumed on Saturday in the Carmelo Anthony murder trial for the fatal stabbing of 17-year-old Austin Metcalf at a high school track meet in Frisco in 2025. Taking a live look here at Dallas, Texas, one of the live cameras that we do have in the newsroom. Wanted to run through some details that we have from Fox News correspondent Brooke Taylor, who has been in the courtroom. Now, the biggest takeaway, Brooke Taylor says, is that the state rested its case after calling 21 witnesses. She says at the center of the prosecution's case are the students who were under the team tent and witnessed the confrontation unfold. One witness testified that Metcalf asked Anthony to leave the tent about 15 times before the stabbing. Here to break down day 3 for us in the courtroom is former federal prosecutor Nima Rahmani. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Alexandra. Big day today in that courtroom.
Absolutely. And as I was just saying, the state rested its case after calling just 21 witnesses. That's short of the expected number of witnesses that people expected to be called in the courtroom. Nima, if you will, take us into the minds of the prosecution team. What goes into the decision to rest your case?
So certainly in a case like this, you want to make sure that you have all or almost all of those percipient witnesses testify. A lot of them saw this interaction unfold, and some of them provided very helpful testimony for the prosecution. Now, we are seeing the defense start their case in chief, and they are putting on some of their own witnesses. And I would say that some of their best witnesses seem to be some of the first witnesses. But really, the facts here aren't necessarily that much in dispute. It's more of a question of, was this use of deadly force appropriate? And under Texas law, and in most states, deadly force in self-defense is only legally appropriate if the person using the force, in this case, Carmelo Anthony, is at imminent risk of death or serious bodily injury. And that use of force has to be both reasonable and proportionate. So what you see the prosecution arguing here, Alexandra, is that it was Carmelo Anthony who was the aggressor. He's the one who went into the tent. He knew it was a rival tent. He was asked to leave, and he chose not to do so. And he brought a knife to a proverbial fistfight, even though it was more pushing and shoving. Of course, the defense is painting a very different story. They're saying that it's not uncommon for rival team members to go into opposing tents. And it was raining. And in fact, Anthony seemed to be invited or maybe even welcome. So a very different story being portrayed by the defense as they start their case in chief today on a rare court day on a Saturday.
And of course, the defense moved for a direct verdict, claiming that the state had not proven its case. Nima, my question to you, is it pretty common for the defense team to call for a direct verdict?
Yes, Alexandra, every single case, 100 times out of 100, the defense will ask for a directed verdict. It is very rarely granted. We saw it recently in a school shooting case there in Texas, where the judge did grant a directed verdict, where a school administrator, vice principal, I believe, was charged for a young child who brought a gun to school. But again, it's very, very rare for this to happen. The defense raises it. Sometimes it's a Hail Mary, and sometimes it's just to preserve that argument on appeal. So I'm not surprised that the defense raised the motion. I'm not surprised that the judge denied it. And ultimately, this is really a question for a jury. They need to decide whether that use of force was appropriate or not.
That's the sound of an American oil company hard at work. Want to be a part of it? Listen up.
Hello, my name is Adam Ferrari.
Well, let's keep on that conversation about the prosecution's witnesses and the jury. From your point of view, what testimony do you think will stick with the jurors most?
I think it's the testimony from the other students that were there. I mean, these are children, really young adults, and to see them watch this interaction, really tragedy, I would say, for both sides. And I think even, the victim's family would agree to that. You have these students that really watch this interaction unfold, a fight that was really unnecessary, a senseless tragedy, and describing how Mello Anthony stuck a knife into the chest of Austin Metcalf, this really horrific scene, and then him collapsing and dying, just the graphic testimony about the blood in his chest. And you see the coaches, the administrators, the students testifying to that. It was really just very difficult to hear. And I think that's what sort of stood out to me the most, because the jurors might be asking, well, even if Austin Metcalf is significantly bigger, and we've heard anywhere from 50 to 100 pounds bigger than Anthony, even if there were other people present, was this an appropriate response to pushing and shoving to pull out a knife and stab someone?
Of course, a lot of testimony from teenagers and from teammates. I want to talk about one specific witness from today. Prosecutors called on 18-year-old Eddie Parra to take the stand. And Parra is the teen who knew Anthony and greeted him as he entered that memorial tent. What's the rationale behind prosecution calling up someone who knew Carmelo Anthony?
Yeah, I think the prosecution called Eddie because they wanted to get out of this testimony, because frankly, I thought it was helpful for the defense. You really heard testimony over the past several days that, it was Anthony who was the aggressor, who was going into the tent, who wouldn't leave. And he was really being stubborn at best, defiant at worst. And not to say that, he had any legal right not to be there, or he was supposed to move just because Austin Metcalf asked him to. But then you have Eddie, who really tells a different story. He says, listen, I welcomed him. I dabbed him. This is someone I knew. This was someone that was friendly. So I thought it was pretty good testimony for the defense. And certainly some of that evidence that they got up. I think what the prosecution wanted to do is maybe call that witness in their case in chief. That's the strategy that prosecutors use sometimes to take the sting out of a good witness that might be favorable for the other side. You get control of it. You front that evidence for the jury so they don't think you're hiding anything.
And I did want to read up on some notes provided to us from Brooke Taylor, Fox News correspondent, about that witness. She writes that he testified he thought it was weird that Anthony was under that tent because, quote, teams are supposed to be at their own tent. Brooke Taylor continues to say, he said Anthony responded, "You're not going to move me. You're an expletive. Touch me and find out." Nima, I do want to move our conversation forward here. Defense is now beginning to call their witnesses, beginning with Carmelo Anthony's track coach. What approach are you expecting defense attorneys to take in their direct examination?
Well, certainly the track coach I thought was very helpful, because he said, look, it's not uncommon for people to go into a rival team's tent. It happens all the time. And it was raining. And Carmelo Anthony's school did not have a tent. So he was just trying to get out of the rain. Again, really try to normalize the behavior, right? Because you see the prosecution pointing a picture of someone who was making threats, saying, touch me. He has his hand in his backpack. He brought a knife to a sporting event. Obviously, it's pretty well established and acknowledged that he shouldn't do that. So what the defense is trying to do is say, listen, this was really normal behavior. And it was Metcalf who was the aggressor. He was unnecessarily threatening and ultimately violent. He's the one who initiated the first assault. So you see the defense telling a very different story, maybe some of the same facts. And ultimately, it's really up to those jurors to decide, was this excessive force? Was this genuine but unreasonable force? And the reason I talk about that, Alexandra, is under Texas law, that reduces murder, that first-degree murder, intentional, all the way down to manslaughter. That's a significantly different sentence. And look, Texas is a very strong self-defense case. Obviously, there are racial overtones here. But importantly, under Texas law, it's the prosecution that has to disprove self-defense beyond a reasonable doubt. So all these facts are really important to show who was the aggressor, was the use of force reasonable and appropriate. And I understand why the defense is doing what they're doing here.
Nima, what will you be watching for on day 4 of the trial?
What I'll be watching for is a little bit more history about Carmelo Anthony. Is this someone who's been bullied? I really want to know why he would bring this knife to a sporting event. Was he someone that had been picked on before, had been jumped, for instance, I think that goes to a state of mind. Again, it has to be reasonable. But if there's some world that Anthony genuinely but unreasonably believed that he was at risk, that may get him out of that first-degree murder charge, and it would be a significantly lesser sentence. So I want to know a little bit more about his history. Obviously, we've heard these two students were not only great athletes, but great students as well, A students, A and B. So, why would he bring that knife to the match? And I think the defense is going to have to tell that story. Also, I think Alexandra, importantly, and I think everyone expects Anthony to take the stand and testify, the conventional wisdom is in a self-defense case, even though defendants don't have to testify, they do have that Fifth Amendment right, that they do have to take the stand and explain their story. I do think that will happen in this particular case. And we know that, of course, if a defendant takes the stand in a criminal case, the entire case usually comes down to his or her testimony. So
is Carmelo going to testify is the question. Now, here's the thing. Now, I really wish they had streamed this so that we could all see and hear everything for ourselves. Because what I'm noticing is the news reporters, specifically Fox News, they're not reporting some of these things that don't look good for the prosecution. That's what it sounds like to me. Now, they didn't say anything about the fact that Austin was cursing at Carmelo, that they were cursing at each other and up in each other's faces or whatnot, that Carmelo got shoved so hard that he fell back on someone, I think, named Dustin. But let's get into it. I'm going to pull up Queen Sheba's information. We're going to start at the 26-minute mark, I believe. Or maybe even a little bit before that. Okay, likes up, everyone, please like and share. And I agree with you, Ron Robert. Way too much false information is being passed around. And that's why it'd be so great if everyone was able to see this. DJ Big Six said lying by omission. Exactly. They're trying to paint a narrative. They're trying to, in fact, control the narrative. That's what they're doing. Okay, let's get into it. I'm going to start at the 15-minute mark, and I'm going to use an overlay.
Well, what happened the other time when Carmelo was in your tent?
Hold on, let me take it back just a little bit. We'll go to 10 minutes.
Who made the first move? He said Austin made the first move. Were you surprised by the stabbing? Yes. Was Austin Metcalf, hold on, dang, that's my own writing. Hold on, y'all. Oh, I got it. Prior to the stabbing, do you know if Austin Metcalf was angry or got angry? I'm not sure. Was Carmelo Anthony angry? No, but he looked suspicious. I made a note that while this witness was testifying, he kept looking at he would take a few glances at Carmelo Anthony. So the state says, describe what happened next. He said, Carmelo ran to the right. Hunter tried to grab him. I panicked and I took off running. As Austin Metcalf removed his clothes, I saw his chest and I was scared and I ran. Why did you run? Because I was scared of being stabbed. What happened then? Well, as I was running, I ran into the police. Did you tell them what happened? Yes. Did you stop running when you saw the police? Yes. Because you felt safe then, correct? Yes. Then what happened? So the 17-year-old continued to testify that Hunter, at this time after the stabbing, was next to Austin. Hunter initially attempted to chase Carmelo, but he quickly returned to Austin. He said at this point, the teachers and the trainers were around Austin, clearing the space around Austin, and they made all of the students. stay back. So he was only allowed to watch from afar, and all of their backpacks were left in the tent. He said, your mother shared that you've received some counseling. Have you received counseling because of this incident? He said, yeah.
This almost feels illegal to know after a car accident. Never.
As best as you understand what self-defense is, was this self-defense? He said no, because he used lethal force against non-lethal force. They passed the witness to the defense, and at this time, the defense cross-examines. They talked about the incident. He said, where'd you go, Buzz? Okay, so after the incident,
Now, if you notice, they asked the witness, did he think it was right what he did, or was it fair, whatever, was it murder? He said he used no, because he used lethal force against non-lethal force. Now that sounds like he was coached to say that, and I think they all were coached how to answer that question. But the question is, why were they asked that question? They're not experts, okay? They should only be questioned about the facts of the case, not speculation. So again, I just thought that was very interesting, but let's continue.
Did you go? He said, I went to the bus. And then what happened? Well, I was interviewed by a detective. Do you know how long Carmelo Anthony was under the tent? No. But you told the detective you knew him before. Yes, sir. You told the detective that Carmelo Anthony has been in the memorial tent before at previous track meets. No, I didn't say that to the detective. Okay.
Now he just lied. He just lied. He said that he didn't say that to the detectives, that he knew Carmelo and that Carmelo had been in their tent before.
Okay. Well, let me refresh your memory. I have the transcripts from your.
And mind you, he didn't say, I don't remember, I don't recall. He literally said no. Okay, so he flat out lied.
Your interview with the detective. So the defense approaches the witness and shows him his account of events, what he shared to the detective. The witness reads that, and at the time I made a note that the Asian lady in the juror began to consult with another juror at that time. I think what happened, well, I don't think. I made a note at this point. I wrote, oh, the defense has established that Carmelo Anthony either knew or had a relationship with someone. Because the next question was, you told the detective that you said that Carmelo Anthony was talking to other athletes in the tent, correct? No, not talking. He was just trying to talk. He says, so Carmelo Anthony was just trying to talk to somebody. Yes. So what they do, just stare at each other? So what was they doing? Well, the Eddie that he was talking to wasn't looking at Carmelo. He was just shaking his head. So what did Carmelo say? He said about 3 words. Well, what happened the other time when Carmelo was in your tent? He maybe said hi. Okay. So what happened next? You said Carmelo was trying to talk to students. Yes.
Now, Desmond says, a lie can tell on itself. Why lie? Just tell the truth. Exactly. But see, the thing of it is, in my opinion, they're all trying to make it to where Austin is not at fault. even though he put hands on Carmelo first, even though he confronted Carmelo, even though he didn't bother to go get an adult and he really wasn't even supposed to be there in the first place. Okay, so with that all being said, they're trying, because these are his friends. These are people who are on the team with him. He played football and all of that. So these are people who really were close to him. So they're trying, to cover for him, basically. Trying not to make him look bad, in my opinion. And it's interesting because, as I told you all, I think I told you all yesterday, that when they spoke to these teens right after the incident, that's likely when they got the truth. Later on, after everyone's had time to think of it, and then you have the adults, okay, who are racist, coming and telling them what you need to say. We need to take this kid down. He needs to be found guilty, and y'all need to say this. That's what it sounds like to me, like everybody's now on code and has been coached and prepped on what to say and how to say it. Okay, but they're still getting caught in lies because clearly, I don't know if they just don't remember what they said before in those statements or what. But the guy, Eddie, got caught in so many lies. But thank you, Desmond, for your insight, beloved, and your contribution to the channel. I appreciate you.
But the meet previous to this meet, was he under the tent talking to other students? I'm not sure. You had a track meet 10 days before this meet, correct? Yes. Was it that meet that he was talking to other students? Most likely. So that track meet was the Logos at the Logos Theater, correct? Correct. Let me clean it up a little bit. At this point, it became obvious to me that the students have been prepped by the state. What does that mean?
Mhm.
I mean, you have to prep your witnesses, right? And at different times, it appeared as if the witnesses did not want to insinuate anything that would put Austin in a negative light. So if you hear me read the testimony where the witnesses are saying, I'm not sure, they are allowed to say that because you can't lie under oath.
But here's the thing, though. If you say, I'm not sure, but you are sure, you did lie under oath. You see how that works? Because I think they're all exactly sure about what happened and what they saw and what they heard. Okay? They've already given statements to the detectives previously. And yes, they were coached because that was one thing that we talked about at Diddy's trial. The prosecution calls these people in for interviews, and then they coach them on how to answer the questions when they're on the stand. Okay? So they clearly seemed like they were coached because they were all saying the same sort of things, just like how Trump's people, when they don't want to answer questions, they just try to either talk over the person or just try to deflect and all of that and gaslight. They were all saying things like, I don't recall, or I don't know, or I'm not sure. Okay? And then, like I said, in certain cases, the defense would just pull out the receipts. But let's continue.
So if it doesn't make sense, it's okay. I'm just giving you the testimonies. And what happened in this incident, when he was attempting to question the witness today regarding what other track meets did Carmelo sit under the tent, he says, I don't remember. I'm not sure. And that's why the defense said, but you had a meet 10 days before this meet. Yes. Okay, so it was the Logos meet.
We finally moved from California to Georgia, and it was the best decision.
He said, most likely. He said, let me ask you something. Did you kids pull up photos of Carmelo Anthony on Instagram and passed them around and passed the phone around? He said, yeah. Do you remember Hunter being next to Austin? Yes. While he and Carmelo were going back and forth under the tent? Yes. But you don't remember Hunter arguing with Carmelo? I don't remember what he said. He said, I don't remember what I said. I'm sorry. I don't remember what I said. He said, you told the detective that you remember Hunter being next to Austin while Austin and Carmelo were going back and forth. And now today you're saying you don't remember Hunter arguing. He said, I don't remember saying that. He said, well, let me refresh your memory. Here's the transcript. What you said to the detective is they were arguing and the brother hopped in. And you explained to the detective that Hunter likes to defend his brother. Yes, I said it. You also made a statement that Austin Metcalf put his hands on Carmelo's shoulder to intimidate. He's like, no, I don't mean intimidate. I meant more like a warning, you know, like actions speak louder than words. Did you see the stabbing? No. Is Austin Metcalf larger? What do you mean larger? Like taller, bigger? Well, let me ask you this. Does Austin Metcalf play linebacker? Yes. Are linebackers bigger than receivers? Yes. So would not linebackers be intimidating by size, correct? Yes. Do you remember telling Detective Anderson that Austin was done with wanting Carmelo to move, so he grabbed him? I don't remember. And that was the end of that testimony. They go to the second witness. The state calls a second witness, and this is a 16-year-old male. He's scheduled to graduate with class 2028. He plays football, and he also runs track. They ask him, the state starts off, tell us what happened on April 2nd, 2025. He said, I arrived to the track on bus. I helped to unload the tent, the coolers, you know, the bigger boys. We are the bigger boys, and we help with all of that. He said, who helped? It was me, Austin, Hunter. Was there weather on that day? It was cloudy.
Now, let me stop right there for a second. She said it was the bigger boys, is what he said. The bigger boys. Okay, Desmond just gifted a membership to the channel. Thank you so much, Desmond, for your kindness and generosity. Okay, so everyone shout out Desmond, and specifically the person who got that membership. All right. Thank you. Let's continue.
And it was rainy sometimes. Okay, so what happened then? I walked around with Austin and Rhett back to the bleachers. Hi. Hold on, y'all. Give me 1 second.
Is this from downstairs?
Weapon. We're not supposed to have weapons at school.
Let me go back just a little bit.
I saw a kid from Centennial, but since it wasn't raining anymore, we told him to leave. Who told him to leave? And at this time, the witness named the big guys. He said me, Austin, Hunter, and Luke. Was he angry? Yes. Did he leave? No.
Now, let me say this. There were 4 big guys. He said him, Austin, Hunter, and Luke. Now, we already know that Austin and Hunter weighed like over 200 pounds. In fact, on the autopsy report, it said that Austin weighed 213 pounds. Okay, so we know those are two big guys, and the other guys were big as well. Maybe not as big as them, who knows? But nonetheless, that's four big guys. So who's to say that Carmelo didn't think that they all were going to jump him? Especially when Hunter hopped up and got involved in the arguments that he and Austin were having. So we don't know where his mind state was or exactly what he was thinking, how fearful he in fact was. Okay, so keep that in mind. All right, now let's continue.
Hold on. So was he angry? No, more irritated. What did he say when you told him to leave? He said, beat me out, touch me, and see what happened. I made a small note. This is my personal note. And I wrote, this sounds rehearsed. The witnesses were prepped. But that's
Now that definitely sounded rehearsed to me. Beat me out, touch me, see what happens. Okay, please pay attention. Yeah, there was four of them, four big guys.
perfectly normal in many cases. Who instigated? He said, Carmelo Anthony. You know him? Yes. And then the witness testified that Austin Metcalf tried to force him out, that he had no other choice. But no, he said Austin Metcalf tried to force him out. And after that, Carmelo stabbed Anthony. Was Austin angry? No. Was Carmelo angry during the back and forth? I don't know. Did you really think that Carmelo had a weapon? We're not supposed to have weapons at school events. Did Austin shove Carmelo really hard? No. Did Austin become frustrated? Yes. Why? Because he wanted Carmelo to leave. So what happened after that? The stabbing. Did you see it? No.
Now, let me stop for a second because I see several people in the chat saying that Black people don't even talk like that. Well, that's exactly the first thing I thought when I heard him say that he said, beat me out, touch me and see what happens. I've never even heard the term beat me out. So that's the first thing I was like, okay, yeah, I don't hear Black folks saying that, but let's continue.
Because I was looking toward the field. But when I look back, he testified that it was blood on Austin's chest. Austin was falling, and Hunter told them to run. The teachers came and ordered the students to go to the bus. He was then asked, was Hunter any way involved? No, it was one-on-one. And then he said, hold on. Give me 1 second. That Hunter was seated next to him.
If you're a dad watching this and you don't have life insurance,
hold on, whoa. Hunter was seated next to me. But after the stabbing, I'm trying to make it make sense. Hunter went back to the brother to help save him. So y'all get how this is going. It was a little clunky. It was clunky. So what he's saying is Hunter was next to him during the altercation and a verbal back and forth between Austin and Carmelo. Once the incident occurred, Hunter initially went after Carmelo, but returned back to try to save his brother, in addition to all of the other details that I just gave you. He said, what was happening on the bus? We were crying, we were shocked, and we asked Eddie, have you figured out who Carmelo Anthony is? Write that down. This is very important. I'm going to come back to it. We asked Eddie, have you figured out who Carmelo Anthony is? Because I remembered that hearing Eddie call Carmelo Anthony Mello. So they knew each other. Yes. Based on what you know about self-defense or murder, what would you say this is? I would say he committed murder. They then passed the witness to the defense to cross-examine.
Let me say this. Okay, so like I told you all, this is clearly rehearsed. They've clearly coached them. That's why at the end, they ask each one of these children, okay, mind you, they ask each one of them, is it murder or self-defense? As if they know, or as if it's up to them, or even as if what they think it means matters. It's up to the jurors, not them. So what's the point of them doing that? Because they want the jurors to see that these young people saw a murder, or what they deem as a murder. Now, Alejandro, thank you, beloved, for your contribution. I appreciate you. Peace, love, and blessings. Now, with that all being said, the defense really, in my opinion, needs to amp their game up. I'm still stuck on why they didn't say move to strike on the grounds of speculation when they keep asking them this. They should have done that after the first one was asked, the first witness. Okay, that's just crazy to me that they didn't say anything. I just wonder what their record is, as in wins. Okay, so let's continue.
They asked him about the tent. What happened when Carmelo came into the tent? He testified that it wasn't raining anymore, so they asked Carmelo to leave. The defense says, so what you're saying is it was okay as long as it was raining, correct? Yes. But leave after it stops raining, correct? Yes. Who did Carmelo sit next to? I'm not sure. Was it behind you? Yes. Was it toward the edge of the bleacher? Yes. I made a small note with a question mark. Sounds like he may have ducked for cover, meaning for rain. So what did Carmelo do while under there? He was just talking with Eddie. How long? I'm sorry, he asked him, how long did the back and forth go between Austin and Carmelo? He said approximately 3 minutes. Did Carmelo have a backpack? Yes. What did he say? I don't know, just something. What did Austin say? You lying. You ain't got nothing in that bag. And then did Austin walk over to Carmelo while Carmelo was seated? Yes. Okay. Do you remember telling the detective that Austin decided to go? And I do believe he said, I'm not sure. He said, did Carmelo use one hand or both hands to remove, I'm sorry, did Austin use one or both hands to remove Carmelo from the tent? Both hands. How much does Carmelo weigh? Not a lot. Did Austin push Carmelo's body? I'm not sure. Okay. Do you remember when the detectives interviewed you, telling the detective that Austin was a really good athlete? Your words were, I remember him playing. I was scared of him. Yes, I remember. Do you remember saying that you were intimidated by Austin Metcalf? Yes. And then y'all became friends, correct? Yes. Do you remember Eddie saying mellow? Yes. To who? Carmelo. Were Carmelo and Eddie seated next to each other? No. When you got to the bus after the incident and you asked Eddie, who is Mello? What did he say? My friend. Did you see while on the bus a photo of Carmelo Anthony. Yes, but not on the bus later that day. All right, they dismissed that witness. Then they go to the third witness, who's a 16-year-old boy who shared that this was his first time. This was his first track meet.
Danielle, thank you for the super sticker donation, beloved. I appreciate you. Peace, love, and blessings.
On April 2nd, 2025. Do you know Austin Metcalf? Kinda. We just get along. Tell us what happened on the day of April 2nd at this track meet. The witness testified that he arrived by bus.
Let me say something really quickly. Ron Roberts says this case will be a legal precedent for future cases. And you asked earlier, do we want there to be able for people to use lethal force on hands-on contact or something along the lines of that? This will not set a precedent. If he's not guilty, if he's acquitted, it won't set a precedent for anything. There's already rules and laws for self-defense. Okay, there's the Castle Doctrine, there's stand your ground. There's all sorts of things already that have set precedent. Okay, so it's not like this is going to be a first if he in fact gets acquitted. Okay, please pay attention. Now let's continue.
He helped to set up, and once the tent was set up, he scrolled through TikTok. Was it raining? Not at this time, but it did start raining later. Later, like after the stabbing? No, before. So this is the state on direct.
15 minutes. Till June 1st. That's all it takes to shock everyone who haven't seen you in months.
And he also explained, this witness, that he's also friends with Eddie. He said, can you tell me what you were doing 10 minutes before 10 a.m.? He said, actually, 10 minutes before 10 a.m., Carmelo Anthony sat next to me. What did he say? He said, what crazy weather, right? And I said, yep. Then what happened? Carmelo Anthony recognized Eddie and they started talking. Oh, how does Eddie know Carmelo? Eddie's friends with Carmelo's girlfriend. So they were talking. Well, Carmelo tried. He attempted to chat with, oh, no, I took it back. I take it back. He said, Eddie is friends with Melo's girlfriend. And that Carmelo Anthony even attempted to chat and make small talk with Austin Metcalf. Let me go back. The defense says, hold on. Not yet. I'll tell you that in a minute. When it rained, this is still the state. You said it started raining, correct? Yes. Before or after the stabbing? Before. How do you know Eddie? I'm friends with Eddie. I feel like I'm repeating myself. So then he said 10 minutes before, Carmelo came in and Carmelo said, what crazy weather, huh? He said, yeah. Carmelo recognized Eddie. They started talking. Did Carmelo sit under your tent or on the edge of your tent? He sat on the edge of the tent. Do you know Paul? Yes.
Let me say something really quick before I continue. Ron Roberts said, I think Kyle Rittenhouse should have been found guilty, but he had a legal right to carry that weapon. No, he actually didn't. He actually didn't. Kyle Rittenhouse was 17 years old at the time. Okay, so he was not legally able to purchase that weapon. Instead, Danik Black purchased it, okay, from a hardware store on Kyle's behalf. So he was not in legal possession of that weapon, but that's the part they don't talk about. But let's continue.
What did Paul say? Paul said, "Who is this guy?" What did Carmelo say when Paul said, "Who is this guy?" Carmelo says, "I'm a nobody." Okay. Was he angry when he said it? No, but it's kind of like disrespectful. Okay. What happened after Carmelo said, "I'm a nobody"? Paul says, "Since you're a nobody, get out." What did Carmelo say? Carmelo said, "I'm not leaving. Fuck you." At this time, who's involved? He said Paul and some other guys, but not Austin and not Hunter. Then what happened? Carmelo became more aggressive. Okay. And then what? They said leave. What did he say? He said, "Fuck y'all. I'm not leaving. Y'all are a bunch of pussies. You're not going to do anything." Were you scared? No.
Now, I don't know about you all, but I do not believe that Carmelo said all of that. Now, he may have, but do you all think that Carmelo said all of that? And if he did, how come they didn't say that in the beginning when all of this first transpired and they were giving statements to the police? Well, I don't recall hearing any of this in the reports. But I'm not going to say that it didn't happen. I just don't think that it did. I would like to see proof, but let's continue.
And then what happened? Austin stepped in to take the lead. What did he say? "Bro, just leave. We don't want you here." And then what happened? Carmelo reached for his backpack. What did he do with it? He put it on his lap and he had his hand in his backpack. And then what he said? He said, "Touch me and see what happened" 5 times. And what did Austin say? He said, "I'm..."
So this person literally sat there and counted how many times he said it, because he specifically says that he said, "Touch me and see what happens. Touch 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 me and see what happens." He said that 5 times. He said that 5 times. I don't believe it. Now, he may have, but like I said, I don't believe it. Okay. And then he sat there and literally counted. Yeah. Okay. In the midst of all of this, who's counting how many exact times someone said something? Now, if he said, "Touch me and see what happens" more than once, or he kept repeating it, then that would sound more plausible. But for him to give a specific number 5 times, I don't believe it.
"I'm not going to fight you" 5 times.
And so Austin also says, "I'm not going to fight you" 5 times. "I'm not going to fight you. I'm 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 not going to fight you." He said that 5 times. And you counted both of them saying these statements 5 times apiece. Okay. Let's continue.
Do you know if Austin Metcalf may have touched Carmelo's neck or shoulder? And I think he said, I'm sorry, he testified under oath that the witness testified under oath that Austin may have touched Carmelo's neck or shoulder. He wasn't sure. And then what happened? And then we heard Austin say, "He fucking stabbed me." Did you see the stabbing? No, I didn't realize he was stabbed until he raised his shirt and I saw a big hole in his chest. At this point, I made a note that one of the jurors, a male juror, glanced over at Carmelo. He said, "Then what happened? Did Austin..." Oh, he says, "In your opinion, did Austin do anything you saw or you heard to get stabbed?" No. Is this self-defense or is this murder? And he responded, "Austin didn't deserve this." And I made a note that he didn't, that the kid did not want to implicate Carmelo as a murderer, but what he said was Austin didn't deserve this. Then they passed him to the defense to cross-examine. They asked him, how do you know Eddie? He said, Eddie and I play soccer together. Okay. So under the tent, did you sit with Eddie? No. He said, I sat alone. Where was Eddie? He sat a row down.
It literally smells like my bottle of Baccarat in a laundry pod.
Brother.
Didn't Carmelo ask you before sitting, is it okay to sit here? No. He didn't? No. So he just sat down, yes. And he didn't ask you, is it okay if I sit here? No. Did Carmelo talk to Eddie? He said, when Eddie turned to say something to me and he saw Carmelo Anthony, he actually switched seats with me so that he could sit next to Carmelo. Were they talking? Yes. Were they friendly? Yes. About how long? 2 minutes. Until when? Until somebody said, who is this guy? So nothing bad happened while Carmelo was talking to his friend Eddie. No yelling, no commotion, no. How do you know that? He said, oh, Eddie knows Carmelo's girlfriend. How do you know that? Because I know her too. During the commotion, did Eddie say, I know him? When the big guys were asking, who is this guy? At any time, did Eddie say, hey guys, that's my friend? No. How did Carmelo say, I'm a nobody? Did he use tone? No, but we just thought it was disrespectful. Did you tell the detective about Carmelo's comment? I'm a nobody? I don't remember. Where was Austin seated? He was seated one seat below. Did he step up to remove Carmelo? I don't remember. You don't remember? No. Do you remember how he touched Carmelo? No. Do you remember in what manner he touched Carmelo? No. They dismissed the witness. Then they called what I would say a key witness to testify about what happened. And this is still the state's witness on April 2nd, 2025. All right. According to the key witness, this was his third year, last year, running track. And they asked him if he knew Austin and Hunter. And he said yes. He described his relationship as being very close to Austin, to which the state said, oh, you're unique because you're the common denominator. How do you know Carmelo? He said, Carmelo is the ex-boyfriend of a family friend. Her parents and my parents were friends. He said, are you and Carmelo, or were you and Carmelo friends? Nope. He was just someone I knew. Did y'all dap it out every now and then? Yep. But you were friends with Austin, correct? Yes. Good friends, correct? Yes. Like a brother. He felt like a brother to you, correct? Yes. Have you spoken with Carmelo since the murder? No.
Now, keep in mind that he said that he and Carmelo were not friends. Okay, that they were not friends. That he would just dap him up once in a while.
When you went back to the tent, you didn't notice Carmelo was in the tent, correct? No. When did you notice he was in the tent? I heard him. And when I heard him, I said hello. Did you think it was weird that he was under your tent? No. Hold on. There's something I'm missing. I made a short note. What did Austin say? Austin asked Carmelo, who are you? Why are you here? Were Austin and Carmelo going back and forth? Yes. What was Carmelo's mood? He was irritated. Why? He was mad because he was asked to leave. What did he say? I don't remember the words. Would you say he's reacted differently than he has, or what you have known him to respond in the past? Yes. What did he say? You're going to have to make me move.
You're about to lose $50,000 for your car accident because you don't know this one trick.
Move me. And then what did he say? Carmelo told Austin, you're a bitch. And then Austin called Carmelo a bitch. Was Austin getting mad? Yeah, he was. Well, no, he was frustrated. He was just defending us.
Okay, now pay attention to how he switched that up real quick. Was Austin getting mad? He said yes. Then he caught himself. He said, no. He was just getting frustrated. He was defending us. Defending you from what? Defending you from who? Carmelo wasn't trying to fight any of you, nor has he been aggressive to any of you. Now, just because he didn't leave when they supposedly told him to, the four guys, Luke, the first witness or one of the witnesses, and Austin and Hunter, just because he didn't do that didn't mean that he was a threat, didn't mean that he was harassing or bothering anybody. So why did you need to be defended? You see how they're trying to frame this? They're trying to make Austin literally a hero when he was nothing more than a bully. That's what he was.
Did Carmelo reach for his backpack? Yes, he was reaching for his backpack. Was he trying to provoke? Yes. Did he invite Austin to touch him? Yes. Let me go back to something. You said, and I want to be clear, that I didn't give you this word, that this was your own word. You used the word provoke on your own, correct? Yes. Was Carmelo visibly upset? Yes. Did Austin attempt to remove Carmelo off his seat? Yes. Was it soft or hard? Soft. Was Hunter Metcalf involved? Yes. He was just backing Austin up. What did Hunter say? Don't be acting like you have something in your bag. Who stood up? Do you mean before the stab? Yes. Austin stood up.
Now, somebody in Queen Sheba's chat said he's talking like Carmelo was the big bad wolf. And that's exactly what they're doing. Okay, that's exactly what they're doing. Trying to paint him. It's the stereotype of the typical black man stereotype that black men are hostile, aggressive, okay, can't control their tempers and all of that. That's what they're trying to paint here. But let's continue.
To shove Carmelo. And what was happening? Well, everybody was watching the altercation. Oh, you say altercation? Did you think a fight was going to happen? Yeah, I did towards the end. You expected them to fist fight at some point? Yeah, towards the end. Did you pull out a phone? Yes. To act like you were going to record? Yes. Why? Because I thought it was funny. But did you actually record? No, I didn't. I was just pretending to record.
And let me say something else that came out. So when the guy named Paul, whom they claim is the first person who said, "Who is this guy?" So now if we were to paint a picture, it seems that this whole little conversation was when they were asking or they were talking to Carmelo, they were all having the back and forth about football. And then Carmelo told them that their team was ass. That's what Queen Sheba said. That he told them that y'all are ass, like y'all are trash. And so they got upset, likely, in my opinion. And so then this guy, Paul, says, "Who is this guy?" Now, the interesting thing for me with that is that when someone asked who he is, and then people started asking him to leave, supposedly, the 4 people who were talking to him, it's interesting that Eddie never said, "Oh, that's my friend Carmelo." He didn't do that. You see how they stick together? When it's one of you and all of them, and you may think that one of them is your friend, but they stay on code. And I've told you all that for years. Okay, let's continue.
And then what happened? At this point, Austin Metcalf fell back, and Hunter didn't realize he was stabbed, so he went to help him to stand up.
Why you should never warm up your engine before driving, especially when it's freezing.
And he tried to help Austin stand up. And when he realized Austin was stabbed, he ran to get a coach, and then he ran back. What did you see? I saw Austin fall, and then he became unconscious. At this point, I made a note that the jury was extremely intent on this testimony. Then what happened next? I tried to jump the fence. What were you doing? He said he was trying to get on the field. And after being on the field for a while, he was wrestling from the arms of a coach to try to go back to the bleachers. But while he was on the field, when he initially jumped the fence, they asked him, "What did you do when you saw Carmelo, when you jumped the fence?" He said, "I didn't do anything. I just went back to the bleachers. I want to call a timeout here." Do you remember on the first day when Vince Hooper took the stand? He's a head coach for Heritage High School, and he testified under oath that Eddie became visibly upset and ran to the field after Austin Metcalf was stabbed, and he was yelling, "I'm going to kill him. I'm going to kill him." And they had to restrain Eddie. Do y'all remember that? The first day of testimony. The state is clarifying he said, "Did you attempt to fight anyone?" "No." "Did you attempt to run toward Carmelo Anthony?" "No." "What happened?" "I was walked to the locker room." "What happened in the locker room?" I spoke with the detective. I spoke with the trauma specialist. And then, what did you do when you got back on the bus? "I watched Snapchat." "Did you send a text to another student?" "Yes." "Who?" "Alyssa." "What did you say to Alyssa?" "I said Austin got stabbed." During the altercation between Austin and Carmelo, you said something sarcastic, correct? "Yes." Jose asked you, "Do you think he got something?" And you said, "Yeah." Now you wish you hadn't said that, correct? "Yes." Do you regret pretending to record the altercation? "Yeah." Do you think this has anything to do with race? "No." Do you think this has anything to do with self-defense? "No." Did Austin want to fight that day? No. Who was in the right? Austin. Who was in the wrong? Carmelo. Whose fault was the stabbing? I don't know. They passed the witness to the defense.
Now, what I find interesting, like I said, it just really is a whole lot that they keep asking these questions. Who was in the right? Who was in the wrong? Whose fault was the stabbing? Is this self-defense? Is this murder? Why are you asking them all of these speculative questions? They should really only be asking about the facts. And none of this, during any of this, at no point in time did Queen Sheba say that the defense bothered to object to any of it. Surprised the judge didn't object to any of it. Well, likely not, because again, they're all on code. But for the fact that they're sitting there asking them, you know, first of all, he said, was Austin mad? Or do you think Austin was mad or whatever? They don't know what his mindset was, and they don't know what Carmelo's mindset was. They can only go based off of what they saw. Okay? That's right. BB said those are their opinions. Exactly. So they need to stick to the facts. But with that all being said, let's continue.
The defense says, do you remember your second interview being recorded with the detective? Yes. Did you watch it? Not all of it. You didn't watch it all? No. You didn't watch all of your interview with the detective. Wait, which one? There was 2 of them. Oh, yeah. I watched the long one, but not the short one, but not the first one. When did you watch the long one? I watched it 1 week ago. So you watched, yes. Have you talked with anybody about this case? No. Nobody? No. I mean, I talked to some other kids, but I didn't go into detail. Were you close to Austin? Yes.
Now, this kid literally just told a lie, because he said that at first that he didn't talk to anyone about it. Then when pressed further, he said, well, I talked to some kids. Well, you talked about it then. So the answer is yes. Okay, the answer is yes. Now, Golden Arm says the defense is clearly working against Carmelo. I mean, it seems like they're not doing a good job. And I don't know if they're just not good attorneys or they're just purposely, I don't know. But the bottom line is this is all grounds for an appeal if they don't do their job correctly. Okay, inadequate counsel. Okay, that's what could be said if they don't put some pep in their step. Okay, and get on the ball, because why are you not objecting to any of this? And even in one instance, it seemed as though they were leading the witness. Okay, and one question that they asked, I felt like it was the state was leading the witness, and I forget exactly what the question was. But so they're not objecting to anything, which I find very interesting, at least not according to the reports that we're getting. But let's continue.
We kind of hung out sometimes in group settings. Oh, I take that back. Were you close to Carmelo? We hung out in group settings. Can you clarify how many times throughout his relationship? So what happened is the witness was saying that he hung out a few times with Carmelo in group settings with Carmelo's girlfriend, but only a few times throughout that relationship. He says, can you clarify what you mean by a few times? He said 2 to 3 times. How long have you known her? Carmelo's girlfriend. I've known her since we were kids. No, have you known her since you were kids? No, just for a few years. Were y'all close? Yes. So close that y'all called each other cousins, correct? Correct. But you're not blood cousins, correct? So you didn't see Carmelo in the tent, but you heard him, yes. And you dapped him up, yes. And he was seated next to you, correct? He said, yes. Do you remember seeing, and he asked about another witness, No, I don't remember seeing him. They asked him if he remembers seeing the witness that testified that he switched seats with him.
If you didn't call the police after your car accident, you could still be owed serious money. That's exactly what happened.
At this point, I made a note that one of the jurors seemed to be confused. He said, "What was happening? What was Carmelo saying?" He said, "Oh, they were going back and forth about football." Okay. They were going back and forth about football. Yes. What did Carmelo say? He said, "Y'all are bad. Y'all are ass." To who? He just said it. So he just said out the blue, "Y'all are bad. Y'all are ass." Yes. How close was he to you? 2 hands down.
And now that doesn't sound plausible to me that Carmelo would just come out and start talking trash about their football team. Someone had likely brought up the conversation, in my opinion, because why would he just say that out of the blue?
He wasn't close to me. Carmelo Anthony was not seated next to you. No. So are you saying you weren't seated next to Carmelo? No. Were you seated next to, was anybody seated between you and Carmelo? No, he was 2 hands down. So just out the blue, Carmelo Anthony just suddenly said, "Y'all are bad. Y'all are ass." Yes. Did you think it would start something? Did you think this comment would start something? No. Then they asked him more questions. And then they came back to ask him, "Do you remember switching seats to sit next to Carmelo?" Yes. But you weren't next to him, correct? But you told the detective in your interview that you were. Yeah, I said I was next to him. I did say that, but I wasn't right next to him. So he just said, "Y'all are bad. Y'all are ass." And that got them mad. Yes. And when you heard him say, "Y'all are bad, y'all are ass," you got up and dapped him up. Yes. And switched seats to sit by him. Yes. How often did you and Carmelo hang out? Only a few times. But only when his girlfriend was around. Because I knew her. Who yelled, "Who is this guy?" Paul. So at this point, the judge stops and excuses everybody to go to lunch. I made a note. It appeared as if the kids were going back and forth about football and some other stuff. It also appears that Carmelo pissed them off by talking bad about how crappy they were, how bad they were, their football team during the season. "Y'all were bad. Y'all are ass." And the reason I was able to connect the dots and make it make sense for me, because some of the testimony was just spotty, is because I take detailed notes, and I was able to go back to day 1 when Coach Rob Starr testified, who's a head track coach and also a football coach, and he trains linebackers, and he's worked with Austin for a year and worked with Hunter for 2 years. I remember him testifying under oath that he told Austin that he had a crappy season.
Okay, so pay attention. She said that the coach testified that he told Austin that he had a crappy season. And so now Carmelo telling him if it's true, and Carmelo told them that their team was trash, basically, that would likely absolutely upset him because the truth hurts.
And then I was able to connect the dots of the football conversation in the tent. Y'all are bad. Y'all are ass.
Now, let me say this. Nirvana brought up a good point, saying the defense lawyer did swoop in, requesting a dismissal based on the lack of evidence after prosecution rested their case on yesterday. Yes. So Carmelo Anthony's team requested a direct verdict to dismiss the murder charges after the state officially rested its case, arguing that prosecutors had not sufficiently proven their case. However, Republican District Judge John Roach Jr. denied that motion, allowing for the trial to continue. Now the defense is presenting its case in the closely watched 2026 Collin County trial regarding the fatal stabbing of 17-year-old Austin Metcalf. The defense team argues that Anthony, who was 17 at the time of the 2025 incident in Frisco, Texas, acted in self-defense, lawful self-defense, while prosecutors allege it was provoked, unjustified murder. That's what they say, provoked. But let's continue. Let's continue.
We come back for lunch and they ask him, can you tell us about December 2023? He was like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, can you explain? What happened in December 2023? Wasn't that the first time 3 years ago that Carmelo Anthony came to your home? Yes. Weren't you all also tweeting each other on social media? Yes. What happened December 18th of 2023? I'm not sure. Didn't you text Carmelo and say we should do a two-man? Yes. What is a two-man? Isn't that a double date? Yes. So you wanted Carmelo and his girlfriend to come with you and your girlfriend now on a date. No, that was a different girl. Okay. What happened December 19th?
Now, this is all very important information. I want you all to pay attention because this is the same person who said that he was not really friends with Carmelo. He'd dap him up every now and then, and that he'd hung out with him maybe 2 or 3 times because of him knowing the girlfriend that has been his friend since they were kids. But now we're finding out that he was DMing him on Twitter or whatever, messaging each other on Twitter, and then asking him to go on double dates. Okay? With their girlfriends. He really tried to minimize his friendship or his association with Carmelo. Excuse me, Carmelo.
Of 2023. The following day, do you remember what you text Carmelo? Do you recall texting Carmelo to do another two-man for you two to take your girlfriends to the soccer game? Yes. And you went to Memorial Stadium, correct, that day? Yes. Do you remember December 27th? Yes. Do you recall your grandmother's 50th birthday party? Yes. Do you remember inviting Carmelo Anthony?
Over 50 and dreading the first step out of bed? Watch this.
To attend, I'm sorry. I take that back. It was his grandmother. No, I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm sorry. I'm on another note. Okay, December 27th. Do you remember attending a 50th birthday party of Carmelo Anthony's girlfriend? Yes. And you and Carmelo hung out at this party. You both were there, correct? We were both there. I wouldn't say we hung out. Okay. So then they introduced 3 exhibits. One, 2, 3. They introduced 3 exhibits. They showed an exhibit of the girlfriend, the witness, the girlfriend's mother, the girlfriend's brother, and Carmelo's girlfriend's father. They also showed another photo of the witness and Carmelo Anthony being silly on the couch, making faces. They showed a third photo of Carmelo Anthony with his girlfriend's mom. He said, "Do you remember that?" Yes. Shortly after this party, do you remember texting Carmelo Anthony to invite him to your family night for basketball? He's like, I mean, it was something we were doing, but I wouldn't necessarily say family night.
But nevertheless, you invited him to it. Okay, please pay attention. These two were very good friends from the sounds of it, or at least Carmelo thought they were very good friends. Now, some of you in the chat are saying that you think that possibly Eddie has been threatened or that he's afraid. I don't think so. I think that Eddie was more better friends with Austin and has chosen to take that side because if you remember, she already told us that Eddie is the one who was running after Carmelo, threatening to kill him. Okay? The coach said that. I believe it was Coach Vincent Cooper who testified to that. Said that Eddie was running after him and then a coach or someone had to grab him. So he was clearly upset with Carmelo. So he wouldn't be on Carmelo's side, in my opinion. Okay, let's continue. And remember, he said Austin was like a brother to him. So clearly he was better friends with Austin.
But you texted him where to show up. Didn't you give him the details of where to come to? Yes. He said it was just a family day of basketball. They introduced another exhibit and they show Carmelo Anthony in the photo with the witnesses, family, and friends. In the photo, Carmelo is the only Black person. And I don't know the race of the witness, to be honest. Do you remember having a backyard marshmallow toast camp party on January 5th, 2024? Yes. Do you remember inviting Carmelo Anthony? And he said, I do believe the witness explained that's because the girlfriend would attend. So they introduced photos number 5, 6, and 7. Photo number 5 is a photo of the girlfriend. Photo number 6 was a photo of Carmelo Anthony and his girlfriend. And photo number 7 was the kids, like they had their marshmallows on a stick and they were all putting their marshmallows together, touching in the fire pit. Is it true that Carmelo Anthony spent a lot of time at your home? Yes. He also attended your grandmother's birthday party on January 30th, correct? Yes. And you invited him, correct? Yes. Then the state started to interrupt and clarify. And the state would take photos to the witness and say, can you tell me who this is in this photo? And the witness will name the person that the state pointed to. What the state was attempting to do was to, I'm going to say, imply that the witness's relationship with Carmelo wasn't because they were friends, but it was because the girlfriend was the common denominator. Oh, it's okay to get my opinion. Hold on. Let me stay out the chat. Then they showed a photo number 9. This is Carmelo with the witness, Carmelo's girlfriend, and a family member. The defense goes on to say, do you remember you and Carmelo being in your room while you were playing your video game and Carmelo was playing the guitar? No. Do you remember now? As he showed the photo to the witness. Yes, I remember now. And the photo that he introduced into evidence was actually a cute photo of two kids being silly. The witness was playing his video game and Carmelo was playing a guitar in the background.
Get Drive My Way and get a personalized rate based.
So the witness is definitely, Eddie is definitely trying to downplay his relationship to Carmelo, acting as though it was just because of the girl that he's known since childhood. But meanwhile, inviting him to a myriad of things, having him around his family, all of these pictures, the text messages. I don't know why he didn't think this would be brought into evidence or why no one's bothered to tell him that. Because now he just looks like a very, a witness who has no credibility. He's getting caught in so many lies. Like, how can you trust anything that he's saying?
Carmelo's girlfriend, her parents come to your house a lot, correct? Yeah. Would you say regularly in 2024? The state jumps up and says, objection, Your Honor. Sustained.
Now notice how the state is doing their job. They're objecting. And they also objected when the defense tried to mention Carmelo's illness. He has epilepsy or something like that. They were trying to bring that up, and the judge put a stop to it real quick. Didn't want them bringing that up, didn't feel that it was relevant to the case. Now, if you ask me, it could be relevant to the case because maybe, specifically if Carmelo had been bullied before, but maybe that's why he had a weapon on him. Who knows? Maybe he's fragile because of his small weight and then he has a health issue. Who knows? But the judge definitely did not allow them to bring that in, okay, once the prosecution objected to it. And so the prosecution's definitely doing their job. The defense, not so much, in my opinion.
You implied that the only time you would hang out with Carmelo is when his girlfriend was around, correct? He said, but he was never, correct? You said he was never at your house, correct? Well, I mean, he was there sometimes. How often? I don't know, maybe twice a month. Are you still telling this jury that you don't know Carmelo Anthony? Not personally.
You see how he makes no sense? Are you still telling this jury that you don't know Carmelo Anthony? He says not personally. How does that make sense? Of course you know him personally. You know him very well. Okay, he's been to your house a multitude of times. You even said 2 to 3 times a month, probably even more than that. But that's what he admitted to. Inviting him to family functions. You would likely be very close to a person to invite them to meet your family, period, let alone having them come to family functions. Okay, please pay attention.
I know him, but not personally. So would it be a surprise to you that he would be in your tent? No, sir. 10 days before this track meet, were you and Carmelo Anthony not hanging out at the previous track meet? No, I'm not. Was there a track meet 10 days before April 2nd? Yes. Where? I'm not sure. Okay. Where were you? On the field? Were you on the field with Carmelo Anthony? I mean, if so, I was warming up. Did you have a long conversation with Carmelo Anthony at this particular track meet? I don't remember. Your Honor, I would like to introduce a photo for educational purposes. He puts a photo up. He said, "Is this you and Carmelo Anthony?" Yes. Y'all, not only was it him and Carmelo Anthony, they are two peas in a pod. They show a photo that's been extracted from video surveillance 10 days prior to April 2nd. He and Carmelo are sitting on a bench on the field, laughing and talking. And he has on his track jersey with his school logo, and Carmelo has his on. This gave a strong indication that not only were they friends, they were very close friends. Let's continue. So this would be the staging area, correct? Yes. And what the defense implied is that Carmelo and the witness would always look for each other or sit next to each other at track meets. Has Carmelo Anthony ever been disrespectful to you and your family? No. I mean, not when I'm around. Okay, let's just talk about when you're around. No. Was he ever out of line? No. Misbehaved? No. Act out of character? No. Okay. I want to go back to something. I want to clarify. So you're saying that you were seated next to Carmelo on April 2nd, but he was 2 hands away. Yes. But there was a space between the two of you. Yes. And for just out the blue, Carmelo says, y'all bad, y'all ass. And that's when you noticed him. Yes. So he's in your tent and has the audacity to insult your team. Yes. And you still dapped him up? Yes. When Paul asked, who is this guy? Did you speak up? No. You didn't think to say, hey guys, this is my friend. No. Why? Because I wasn't paying attention. You never.
Now, listen to that. He said he wasn't paying attention. So when they're asking who is this person, you're not going to defend your friend and say, hey, that's my buddy. That's my friend Carmelo. You know what I'm saying? Didn't say anything. He's an instigator, if you ask me, because he's one of those people, if he still feels like a fight's about to happen or whatever, it sounds like he's the person who will amp it up and then get all excited and sit there and record, because that's what he did. He pulled out his phone, and I absolutely think that he recorded the whole thing. Why would you pretend to? Who goes through that amount of effort to not actually hit the record button? I think he absolutely recorded the whole thing. And now he's sitting up here lying on the stand, and that recording has likely been deleted, in my opinion.
Never spoke up. No. Why? I didn't feel like I needed to. As things begin to escalate, you didn't think you needed to jump in to straighten things out? No. What did Carmelo say to Austin? He called Austin a bitch. Do you remember before Carmelo called Austin a bitch? Do you remember Austin saying, "I'ma whoop your bitch ass"? Yes. And then what did Carmelo say? "Show me I'm a bitch." And then what did he say after that? Well, he just put his hand in his backpack.
I want you all to pay attention to something. Do you all remember when this case first came out, and they were saying that Carmelo said to Austin, touch me and see what happens? What did I tell you all then? I told you all that in order for him to say, touch me and see what happens, someone threatened to touch him. Because Black people say that once someone threatens to put their hands on us, touch me and see what happens. You don't just say that out of the blue. Someone says something to you to provoke you to say that. Now, the defense just asked him, Eddie, do you remember Austin saying, I'm going to beat your bitch ass? And he said, yes. Okay, he said, yes. Now pay attention to the discrepancies because he didn't say anything about that prior when he was being questioned. So that's why Carmelo likely said what he said. So how does that make him the aggressor? How does that make him the one who's provoking a fight? If somebody says, put your hands on me if you want to, but you already told them you're going to put your hands on them, you're the one that's the aggressor. You're the one that's provoking it. Do you all see how they're trying to spin and flip the narrative? Because if someone tells me they're going to put their hands on me, I'm going to challenge them to do it too. That's what many people would do. Okay, well, try it and find out. F around and find out. Especially young men. Because, of course, they have egos. They don't want to seem as though someone is just, making them seem as though they're weak or a coward. So I want you all to pay attention. This is all very interesting. So he wasn't even going to mention that. They all are acting as though Austin just came up as a leader and said, we don't want you here. You need to go. And then Carmelo pulls out a knife and stabs him. Yeah, we know that doesn't sound right.
Your kids will inherit your timeshare bill the day you die.
So what happened? So Austin said, I'm gonna whoop your bitch ass. Yes. And after that, I don't remember. When did Austin stand up? I don't remember. But you told the detective that you got your phone out to record, correct? Yes. But what you're saying is you really didn't want to record. You were just acting like you were going to record. Yes.
Star on Guitar says, F around and find out is not how the law works. Well, yeah, sometimes it is. Sometimes it is. When it's self-defense, that's absolutely how the law works. If someone does something to you and puts you in fear, you feel like you could be harmed or killed, then sometimes people do F around and find out. We saw that with the Montgomery Brawl. Yeah, that is how the law works. F around and find out. That's why they have the Castle Doctrine and stand your ground. Those are F around and find out laws. Okay, that's all I'm saying. And I'm not saying that's what Carmelo said. I'm just saying that for him to have said, touch me and see what happens, that someone likely said they were going to touch him. And now we find out that they absolutely did. That was my whole point. I was just giving scenarios of what I would possibly say if someone had threatened to put their hands on me. But that's absolutely how the law works. It's called self-defense, stand your ground, Castle Doctrine. All of those are F around and find out laws.
Considering how serious this is, why in the world would you pull out your phone to pretend to record? I don't know. I was just being dumb. Okay, that's fair. I mean, it happens a lot, right? Young kids, you all like to video, right? Yes. And this is just something that young kids like to do, right? Yes. But I was acting like it. You were acting like it. Yes. But you were pointing it high enough that other students actually thought you were recording. Yes. After the incident on the bus, do you remember Talon asking you, did you get a picture? I don't remember. But
he doesn't remember Talon asking him if he got a picture, but he remembers faking as though he were recording.
Everybody saw you holding your phone, right? Yes. At this point, the witness, in my opinion, became frustrated. And I wrote a note. He wore his ass out. Because at this point, the witness established a cadence of not remembering. How did Austin get to Carmelo? He stood up And Austin said to Carmelo, I'm going to whoop your bitch ass. Yes. What did Carmelo say? Touch me and see what happens.
There it is. There it is. I told y'all that from day one. Okay, I told y'all that from day one. I knew that Austin said something for him to say that, but they want to paint this picture that Melo is so nefarious, that he just out of the blue said that just to invoke violence, just to start something. Okay, the lies. Okay, the lies. I told you all. I knew that didn't make any sense. Now, he said, he got up in his face and said, I'm gonna beat your bitch ass. Okay, clearly the aggressor. And then almost twice his size, 130 pounds, 5'9" versus 6'1", 213 pounds. Okay, please pay attention.
Do you remember telling the detectives that Austin Metcalf came in with such force toward Carmelo Anthony that he knocked Carmelo back into Dustin?
You hear that? You hear that? Now, we just heard him say, Eddie, we heard him say previously that Austin pushed him softly. How did he touch him? Softly. Isn't that what he said? But now we're hearing that he came at him with such force that Melo fell into Dustin. Okay, but Carmelo's the one that provoked this. Carmelo's the one that was looking for trouble. Carmelo is the one that was so aggressive. Please make it all make sense. This is the lie that they're trying to push, to try to make him look like he was just so hostile. We asked him to leave and he refused. We never told him he could be there, but you did. Okay, you did. But let's continue.
And by this time, the witness, I wrote, is exhausted because he inhaled and exhaled. And I made a note that the witness contradicted himself because earlier he said he couldn't remember if Austin stood up or not.
Oh, yeah, he did say that.
They asked him to physically demonstrate in the courtroom what movement did Austin make toward Carmelo, and he demonstrated a shoulder push using one hand. When Austin attempted to move, when Austin shoved Carmelo, did it move Carmelo's body? I couldn't tell. Did it happen in a split second? Yes. And you said earlier you saw him run. Well, I just saw him leave, but I don't know if he ran. At this point, the judge interrupted the cross-examination and he asked to speak with the counsel at the bench. Child, let me take a glass of wine. Let's sip on my wine. When the detective interviewed you, did he take your phone or did he tell you he was going to take your phone? He took it. But did he tell you he was going to take it or did he just take it? He took it. What did he tell you was going to happen? Did he say he...
Now, for anyone who's just coming in and you may not know exactly who this is, giving these details, this is Queen Sheba Darling. Okay, you can follow her YouTube channel. She's actually there at the court. So this is exclusive information. She's there inside the court getting this information. Also, so is Neek at Night. They're both down, their boots on the ground reporting this. Okay, just to let you know. Let's continue.
He was going to download a video? Did he say no, he just said he was just going to look at my recently deleted and through my photos. But he took my phone 2 times. And that was the end of that witness's testimony.
Now, why would the police officer or detective take his phone if he didn't have any recordings on it? Why would they take his phone and nobody else's phones? Did they take everybody's phones? They didn't say they took everybody's phones. They said that he took his phone. Why would they take his phone unless he recorded something? Unless they thought there was something on there of interest that pertained to the incident. I absolutely think that he recorded the whole thing. I think that that's why the person, Talon, or whatever their name was on the bus, asked him, do you have a screenshot? Because they all saw him recording. Okay, that's just what I think. Okay, so anyway, let's continue.
Now, there was another witness. He's 16. I'm gonna breeze through his because he really couldn't give a lot of information.
Ah, the sweet sound of self.
He said he.
Hold on now. K. Reese says, so biased opinion. Well, it's not that my opinion is biased. It's the fact that he's lying. And I don't believe anything that he says. He's told several lies and been caught in them. And the defense has shown the evidence to prove that he, in fact, lied. So if you're a liar who lies, I don't believe anything you say because I don't know when to draw the line between the truth and lies for you. So I wouldn't say that I'm being biased. I would just say that I'm looking at the facts and the evidence is showing that this was self-defense. Okay, that's my opinion. I don't think it's biased. I think it is in alignment with how the law works. Okay, now you may feel differently, but at the end of the day, that's how I see it. And I don't think I'm being biased at all. I think that these people are lying, they're sticking together, and they're painting a fictitious narrative. Okay, because the things that they said previously are not matching and adding up to things that they're now saying. Okay, so I'm sorry, they're lying, period. Some of them anyway.
He had his headphones on. And by the time he realized that something was happening, he heard people telling a random guy to get out. And his words were, we were telling him to get out. He said, how did he react to that? He said he was just being stubborn. He didn't want to move. And then what happened? Well, then he picked up his backpack and he stabbed Austin. Did you see him stab him? No. What did you think when he reached for his backpack? He was just being a tough guy. At this time, before the stabbing, did Austin seem upset? No. Did Carmelo seem upset? No. Okay. What happened? He said, I turned back around, and only to turn back after hearing Austin scream, he stabbed me. What did you do? I ran. What did everybody else do? They ran too. Why did you run? I ran because I was scared he had a knife. Was Coach Starr there? No, he came back later. He did clarify that he had his headphones one on one ear and off the other. Was there any cursing or profanity being used by Austin? He said he didn't remember. The medical examiner took the stand next.
Now here comes the medical examiner, and you're going to hear how they describe the knife that was used. Okay, BB says, you're doing an awesome job, Queen. Thank you, beloved. I appreciate you. Okay, so let's continue.
And her name is Dr. Ventura. She's been the she's a chief medical examiner for Collin County. She's been a medical examiner in the industry for 12 years, but she's worked for Collin County for 2 years as their chief medical examiner. And she has a BS from UT Arlington.
Hold on, let me just address this comment. K. Cree says, according to the reporting that I've heard, I think he's guilty, but I cannot make that decision because I'm not in the courtroom. Well, Queen Sheba is in the courtroom, but from the evidence that's transpired, listen, at the end of the day, It's interesting to me because whenever it's a person who looks like me, the bar for something to be self-defense is always raised. Okay. Meanwhile, people who look like you will say that Kyle Rittenhouse, that was in self-defense. They'll say that Chud the Builder, that was all self-defense. Rick Chow, that was all self-defense. Daniel Penny, that was all self-defense. But in all of those situations, no one was in imminent danger. Okay, and all of those people are Caucasian people. Okay, but then when it's a Black person defending themselves specifically against someone who doesn't look like them, it's always so much harder for them to prove that it was actually self-defense. And now you may think that he's guilty, and he likely will be found guilty because there's no one who looks like him on the jury, and that absolutely matters. Okay, that absolutely matters. This is why you never will see, nor have you ever seen a white defendant before an all-Black juror, or before any jury that doesn't have at least one or two white people on it. You won't see that. So this all matters, and it all makes a difference. Now, he may be found guilty, but as far as I'm concerned, with the evidence that's been presented thus far and what the witnesses have said initially in comparison to what they are now saying, I absolutely believe it was, yes, absolutely self-defense. Absolutely self-defense. Someone twice your size, okay, pushes you so hard you fall into someone. There's two of them. The brother has now joined in, going in on you. You don't know if they're both going to attack you. There's other people as well, Luke and the other witness. I don't know his name, but there were four of them. And he said they were the big guys. They were the ones that were supposed to carry the coolers and things like that. So absolutely, it was self-defense as far as I'm concerned. Now, let's continue.
Was a med student in San Antonio, and she took up her residency in Dallas. Her specialty is forensic. She performs autopsy, and she also has a specialty in atomic pathology. She said that when someone dies in Collin County, one of her investigators will take the call.
Get a personalized rate based on how your family drives.
Are assigned a unique ID, and that ID will follow the body from the hospital to the morgue. She said the examination happens in two phases, internally and externally. This was a suspected homicide. And when there's a suspected homicide or a homicide, there's more procedurals that are done, more steps that are done when it's a crime as opposed to natural causes, right? They introduced Exhibit 89.
Babarkas said the jury is not all white. They have Asians and others too. Yes, I absolutely know that. I've said that before. In fact, on the thumbnail from the video that I did yesterday, I showed white people, Asians, and Middle Easterns on the video, on the thumbnail, because that's exactly who's there. Okay, they have white people, Asians, East Asians, and Middle Easterns. But there's no Black people on the jury, is what I said. There's no Black people. We know there's other races of people, but these people that are on the jury all have a history of being racist collectively. Now, I'm not saying every one of their community, but the people on the jury, their communities have a history of being racist against Black people collectively, and that's just a fact. But let's continue.
And which was her autopsy report. The Austin Metcalf is listed as dying. The time of death is April 2nd, 2025 at 10:53 a.m. His autopsy was conducted the following day. Take a note. Officially recorded, Austin Metcalf at the time of death was 6'1" and 213 pounds. So the official that's what you have. At the time of arrest, because I know there's been some discrepancies, right? From police reports to coaches reporting. What was the actual weight difference between the victim and Carmelo Anthony? At the time of his arrest, on the police report, They list Carmelo Anthony as weighing 130 pounds. At the
Star on Guitar says basically that the black people disqualified themselves by saying they didn't want to send a brother to jail. There was one person that said that. There were 3 black women that were educators, and they were denied, and they were not allowed to be jurors because the prosecution argued that because of them being in the education field, I guess, that perhaps they would have bias or whatever. And so that's why they wanted them stricken. Okay, and so with that all being said, I don't feel like that was right. Because as long as they didn't teach Austin or Carmelo, what should that have made a difference? Now, there is a Caucasian woman on the stand, or that's a juror. I believe it's a woman, if I'm not mistaken, but there's a Caucasian person who's an educator. But the defense brought that up, and they basically shut that down, saying that that doesn't matter because she's not an educator in that county or something like that. Or I can't remember exactly what it was, but there was a reason that they allotted for her to still become a juror.
the time of death, on the autopsy report, they list Austin Metcalf as weighing 213 pounds. Austin's body, well, let me just say this. I'm reading off the details that have been shared in the court. Nothing is gruesome to me. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't read it, but that doesn't mean it is not gruesome to you. If you don't want to hear this, please prioritize your mental health. And I'll give you just a few seconds. All right. Once Austin was pronounced dead in the hospital, the medical examiner received his body. She notated that the body was received in a hospital gown. His hands and feet were bagged. His stature was classified as well-nourished. There was a tube in the mouth, or she used a medical term. His vascular access lines were present, external stab wound to chest, internal wound left side, perforated pericardial sac in the heart, penetrated the right ventricle of approximately 2.5 inches in length. She removed the heart from the body. The defect is listed as depth of wound. Oh, I'm sorry. She removed the heart from the body to, continue her autopsy. The wound was 19 inches from the head, and the wound was classified as gaping. And what she explained by gaping, that means that the lining of the fiber tissue was broken. And when the lining of fiber tissue is broken, it causes stress and tension of the skin to be pulled apart. According to the medical examiner, the right ventricle, the knife went through the heart wall. And they showed an exhibits 80 through 83. And according to the state, he directed the medical examiner to pull photos that were not gruesome, but that could be used in court. We were not able to see those photos. They were only shared with the jury. One of the photos was the right side of the heart versus the left side after removal to show I want to use the right word, the mark. The state asked her, is this type of wound survivable? Can you survive this type of wound? Anybody? She said, no, there's only one way to even.
My biggest regret is not getting this red light foot massager sooner.
You would have to be stabbed and already on the operation table with your chest already cut open for a surgeon to be able to administer patching you up and working on you immediately. They showed a knife to the medical examiner, the state did, and they asked her, in the state of Texas, is this considered a deadly weapon? To which she replied, yes. Is stabbing someone with a knife like this considered a dangerous act? She replied, yes. The witness was then handed off to the defense and cross-examined. And they asked her, you noted that the knife did not enter the body horizontal or vertically, correct? Correct. How did the knife enter the body? It entered the body at a slight angle. When you say slight angle, was it more horizontal? She said it was slightly horizontal. Do you know how much force was used? Yes. Do you have a good way to measure this type of force? No. Can you tell the jury the type of force used? No. She did testify that clarify that a sharper blade would be easier to penetrate the skin. And I want you all to know that the medical examiner, based on this testimony, we were able to clarify that the knife used was 3.5 inches, not 5.5 inches. But the wound measured at 2.5 inches. And the defense said, being that the wound was smaller than the measurement of the knife, this could mean a lot of scenarios, correct?
Okay, so Star on Guitar said there is never an all any race jury, never all black, never all white, never all Asian. That's a lie, beloved. Okay, I don't know where you're getting your information from. You should really research before saying certain things. There has been plenty of all white juries in the United States. The most famous case, Emmett Till, it was an all white, all male jury. They absolutely have had all white juries. But like I said, what you will never see, okay, is an all black jury. Okay, but you will see all white juries. They've absolutely had those plenty of times in this country. And like I said, Emmett Till's case was decided by an all white jury of all white men. Okay, so your information is inaccurate, but let's continue.
This demonstrates many possibilities, correct? She said, you could be right. So that also, does this mean that maybe not a lot of force was used? She said it could be. I mean, there's a lot of different possible scenarios. She said, I wasn't there. Could this also mean that Austin Metcalf could have been stabbed while he stood over Carmelo Anthony? Yes. Could this also mean that if Austin Metcalf was pushing Carmelo Anthony and Carmelo was holding the knife in his hand, that Austin could have fallen on a knife? She said, I mean, that's possible. But like I said, I'm not there. Could it mean that if somebody pushed Carmelo from the back and Austin was standing over Carmelo, that also he could have got stabbed that way? Yes. And at this point, the government came back to clarify. They said, the government, the defense have asked you all of these things about, could it be that Austin plunged himself on a knife, or that, he could have fallen on a knife? These are the kind of things we see on television, correct? Correct. You've seen these kind of things on television, correct? Correct. And basically the government was just like, we're not going to play that game. And they clarified and they cleaned it up. Now, the reason why they talked about push back, could it be that if Carmelo had the knife in his hand and Austin pushed him back and somebody pushed Carmelo from the back, is because one of the witnesses testified that Austin pushed Carmelo with such force on Dustin. And I don't know. Did Dustin push Carmelo back? I don't know. But the medical examiner said, look, a lot of things could happen, but it's highly, she also stated that she wasn't there. and she doesn't believe that's what happened. And they said, the defense asked the medical examiner, you said you classified this as a homicide, correct? Yes. Can you list the causes of death that you have to choose from? She said, yes. Natural, which is when somebody dies a natural death from maybe an internal disease. There's an accidental death where it's an external injury. And there's also suicide where it's self-inflicted. And then we have homicide where it's intentional actions of another. And then we have undetermined. That's where it's not enough evidence to determine. What the defense was able to do is say, listen.
Dude, guess how much it cost me to make sure my family gets $1 million if something ever happens to me? You'll never guess.
This is the only classification that she could have put the cause of death under. So they were trying to make that point with the jury. Now, the state came back and said, yeah, the defense wants to argue that the wound is less than the blade. The wound is 2.5 inches and the blade is 3.5 inches. Is it possible that the knife did not go further because it was stopped by the cartilage? She said, yes, that could be a possibility. The state says, I have one more question. You know, typically when you receive bodies that have been stabbed, yes. Sometimes you have victims that have defensive wounds, correct? Yes. And can you explain the difference between defensive wounds versus what we see here? She said, yes. Typically, a defensive wound is not as penetrating or gaping as what we see on Austin Metcalf. And usually it's because the victim, the DA says it's because the victims have their hands up, correct? And he demonstrated a surrender pose. She said, that's correct. She said, those cuts are a little bit longer. And he said, is it true that there were no defensive wounds on Austin Metcalf? Correct? Correct. And he turned to the jury and he said, because he didn't see it coming. And I said, whoo.
That was very dramatic.
And that's all I got.
He said because he didn't see it coming. Okay? That was a compelling statement. Because they said that Carmelo had his hand in his backpack, but they didn't believe anything was in there. They thought it was bluffing, saying that both Hunter and Austin at some point said, you ain't got nothing in that bag. But he did. Okay, so let's continue. I'm going to play a few more minutes and then we're out of here.
That's all I got. And the state now rests its case. That's it. That's it. That's all, folks. That's it. That's all. Take what you need, discard the rest. I filled up an entire notepad. Are such a blessing. Thank you, Queen Liz. We appreciate you over here. Jenny, hey.
Now, I want to go to the part where she basically talks about, I want to go to the part where she talks about, what was it? There was when she said that it looked like one of the witnesses was looking at Mr. Metcalf. Okay, like one of the witnesses was getting signals from him on how to answer. Okay, so I'm going to fast forward a little bit.
I saw it. Okay.
I'm going to go back. I think it's around about
and
this
why was
point.
Austin kicked off the track meet because he went fishing. Because Austin and Hunter were kicked off of the track team because when they would finish their events, they would leave, according to their coach, under oath, and not support the other teammates. And he said it was very selfish, and he asked them to turn in their uniforms. He said, "You only care about yourselves." That was his text message to Austin and Hunter. And maybe, I think it may be another kid. I don't know if it was another kid on there. There could have been another kid on that text. Yeah. Let's see. Any other questions? Looks like we're good. Do we have any other questions that just came? Let me see. Let's see. Y'all are into some stuff in the chat, huh? All right, let's see what else we got. All right, any other final questions? Okay, Coco Lee, I thought I saw your name.
The person who invented this cleaning product is so smart.
I thought I did.
Hold on, I'm going to scroll back a bit because I think she said it prior to that. Hold on. Let me go right here.
As the defense is asking him questions, I see Mr. Metcalf signaling him how to answer with head nods, yes or no, based on the question. And at that point, I became so discouraged and I stopped taking notes. I stopped taking notes because to me, it didn't matter. I was like, this isn't gonna be a transparent conversation. So I'm not gonna fool with it. I dropped my pen and I stopped. Will Carmelo testify? I have no idea. I saw it with my own eyes. And one particular question was, would you say Hunter Metcalf is a big guy? And as I was trying to lean back to get a better angle of the jury, you lean your head back, but I'm turning. I saw Mr. Metcalf shake his head no, and the witness said no. I saw Mr. Metcalf instructing the witness. I saw it with my own eyes, and I didn't want to take notes. So you're not going to get that from me because I like to take notes when I'm watching the witness, and I know it's their response because otherwise it doesn't matter. And I just stopped taking notes. So that's why I'm not talking about that piece. Leticia, thank you. When does the judge make a self?
Okay, so I'm going to stop right there. Now, the rest of the video is her answering questions that people were asking, but you heard her say that she alleges that she saw Mr. Metcalf, who is Austin and Hunter's father, signaling to one of the witnesses how to answer. Now, OG Patrice said that needs to be reported to the court, but they're going to deny it. That'll just be her word against theirs, because who else is going to say they saw it? Okay, that'll just be denied, I'm quite sure. Okay, Dexter Fuqua said the Austin brothers were suspended. Well, they were kicked off of the track team, not suspended from school, beloved. Okay, kicked off the track team. Nirvana said it's racially motivated because the white folks are finding out black people are tired and fighting back. The bottom line is it is absolutely racially motivated. When they try to say this has nothing to do with race, it has everything to do with race, in my opinion. This is why the people who are saying, the people who don't look like me, who are saying that this is not self-defense, it's cold-blooded murder. He came there to provoke them. He came there looking for trouble. First of all, that makes no sense. How did he come there looking for trouble when trouble came to him? Had Austin never approached him, got in his face, put hands on him, shoving him hard enough for him to fall into Dustin, none of this would even be, we wouldn't even be discussing this. Now, what they'll say, many of the racist people that I've heard talking about this online, what they'll say is that Carmelo should have just left. Well, I'm sure he wishes that he had, because I sure wish that he had at this point. But the bottom line is, at the same time, Austin should have just minded his business. And if he felt that he asked Carmelo to leave and he refused, he should have gone and gotten a coach. There's a guy under our tent. We don't want him there, and he's refusing to leave. That's all he had to do. But you don't take it upon yourself to put hands on somebody. That's how you know he was a bully. They're trying to act like he was a leader, but a leader would lead by setting an example. You don't set an example by resorting to violence, which is exactly what Austin Metcalf, sadly for him, okay, that's exactly what he resorted to. Okay, and it's a tragedy, and I'm sorry that he lost his life. But at the end of the day, let's just call a spade a spade. Whether you loved him or hated him, at the end of the day, you know that he started this entire altercation by putting his hands on someone. Talking is one thing. If they're all bickering and bantering back and forth about football or whatever, cursing each other out, saying whatever, that's all one thing. But when you put your hands on someone, you don't know what type of reaction they're going to have. You just don't know. You don't know what the person's mindset is. Are they fearful? Are they thinking that all of you are going to jump them? Are you and your brother are going to jump them? You've already shown that you're hostile and aggressive. He came charging at him hard enough to shove him backward into Dusty. That's what they said. And mind you, that's what the witness who was trying to then say that he shoved him softly, that's what that witness initially said. Okay? During the police statement, or the statement that was given to the detective. Okay, so, and I feel like whatever those teenagers said when they were questioned immediately after the incident is much more reliable than what they're now saying, now that everyone's had a chance to sit down, collect themselves, and get their stories together, because that's exactly what it sounds like to me. Now, people can love it or hate it, but that's just my opinion. Okay, so that all been said, I'm going to conclude this broadcast. Hold on, let me read a few comments. Definitely you call an adult, but YT think they own and run everything and everyone. Well, some of them absolutely do think that they get to tell us what to do and that we're supposed to just bow down and do it. No questions asked. Okay. Scorched Earth says the Metcalfs wasn't supposed to be there at the tent either if they were kicked off the track team. I'm just saying. Yeah, but they're not going to talk about that. They absolutely were kicked off of the track team. Okay, absolutely. Pebbles Love says 4 out of 6 were black witnesses for prosecution. So you think they are lying for the white kid? Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, absolutely. And 4 out of the 6 were white. Were black. I don't think so. I don't think 4 out of the 6 were black. Okay. No, I have not heard that. The only one that I've heard that wasn't white was Eddie. They say that he looks biracial, or he doesn't look like he's white, doesn't necessarily look black. Okay, so I didn't hear anything about 4 out of the 6, but nonetheless, yeah, they're absolutely, in my opinion. Now, I can't prove it, but here's the thing. We don't have to think that they're lying, really. If we know what they said previously and the defense read the statements, they have the receipts, and now they're saying something different, well, they are lying. Okay, it doesn't matter what race they are. If they said something previously and now they're saying something else, they're lying. If the defense caught them and asked them specifically, did you say this? Did you say this? And he says, no, like one of the witnesses did. No, I didn't say that. And then they show that you did say it. You lied. That's just what it is. Okay, it doesn't even matter what race they are to me. If you lie, you just lied. Okay, so Nirvana says Carmelo was in that tent because Texas law doesn't say he couldn't be. That's why. One thing is, I agree with you on that, beloved, but here's one thing. I absolutely believe, okay, Just Anticipate said, I think Eddie is Asian. I saw his picture. Okay, he may be, but I know that There was not 4 to 6 black people. I've not heard anything about that. Okay. I don't know where that came from. Okay. So anyway, with that all been said, and like I said, it doesn't even matter. It doesn't even matter what race they are. They're all now saying something different than what they said previously. Okay. So it's lies, period. And then Black Sean said Eddie invited Carmelo to that tent. Well, whoever he sat down next to initially, he asked them supposedly, can I sit here? And they said yes. Now on the stand, they said they didn't say that, but I don't believe them. Okay, I don't believe them. And then also, Eddie then saw or heard Carmelo's voice and then asked someone to switch seats with him, and he went and sat next to him. So when these other people, this person, Paul, who supposedly said, who is this guy? Hey, who is this guy? He should have said, that's my friend Melo. He should have spoken up and said something. But to me, Eddie was an instigator because who's sitting there laughing? He said he thought it was funny. And so he pulled out his phone to pretend he was recording. No, he recorded it. I'm pretty sure he actually absolutely recorded it. Okay, but that's one of those friends who are not going to try to stop you from doing something, who are not going to try to defend you. They're going to sit there and let everything go down, and they'll sit back and laugh and record it. Okay, clout chasing. Okay, that's my opinion. Now, with that all being said, I'm going to conclude the broadcast. I want to thank you all for tuning in. Please like, share, subscribe. Also, don't forget that is Queen Sheba Darling. That's her channel if you want to follow her. Okay, she's still down there. I don't know how long this is going to last. I don't know if Carmelo is going to testify. I would think that he wouldn't, but because that's usually not a good idea for the person who's accused of specifically in a homicide case to be testifying, because the prosecution can really just go in on them, okay, during cross-examination. But also, another thing is, not just that, some people were saying that they wanted to hear what Hunter had to say. I absolutely don't think the defense should call Hunter. Now, Queen Sheba did say that one of the witnesses had to be subpoenaed by the defense because they obviously didn't want to come. But at the end of the day, I feel like Hunter should not be questioned because that'll work in the prosecution's best interest, in my opinion. He gets up there, starts crying and telling this sob story about what happened to his brother, and it is a sad story. But if he gets up there and starts telling it, so that's going to get a whole bunch of sympathy and empathy from the jury, I would imagine. Okay, then it's going to start a whole spectacle in the courtroom as well, because his parents will likely start crying, seeing him crying, because I'm quite sure he's talking about his brother who passed away and he saw it. He's going to be crying. That's going to make everybody, you know, in his family in the court likely emotional. So that'll all play to the part for the defense. I'm sorry, for the prosecution. So I don't think that's a good idea at all, just in my opinion. Okay, so with that all being said, it looks like Carmelo is standing alone because everyone else is speaking at the behest of Austin. Okay, so that all been said, listen, I'm going to conclude the broadcast. I want to thank you all for tuning in. Please like and share, subscribe. Okay, also double check to make sure you're subscribed to the channel, especially if you have not been receiving your notifications. And until next time, beloveds, I will talk to you all again soon. Each one teach one. That's how we grow and thrive. Do something productive, constructive, but never destructive. And always remember to keep the Most High first in your lives. Peace.
Hey, yo, Nick, hit him with that flavor. Sold all in my skin, God all in my blood. Kings all in my circle, you touch one of mine and you're done. They show no love for the queen, why you hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans? I got dreams like King Luther, shed blood like Kunsa. You ain't helping my people, I ain't got nothing to say to ya. I want all the smoke like hookah. Talking reparations, America won't be great until they give us compensation. I'm like, I'm the hottest right now. That's See right. A bunch of lames out here trying to jock on my style. They be doing too much. I'm the queen, it's too easy. It's like they all at Popeyes, how they be talking so greasy. I just sit back and laugh while these haters get madder. So nefarious how they don't want my pockets with cheddar. I tell them they can do better. These snakes in the grass can leave a bite on your ass, cause y'all be trusting too fast. I the gas, other one on their necks. Dropping receipts on haters, you better show some respect. I'm never facing regrets, we only facing the threats. Running through every challenge like a relay, break no sweat. It's a cold game, so I got that blanket with me. Now that my people awaken, ain't no going to sleep. I do not play by my piece, this time I'm playing for keeps. You talking slick, but when I see you like them ends, we gon' meet. And I got gold all in my skin, God all in my blood, kings all in my circle. You touch one of mine and you done. They show no love for the queen, why they hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans and I got gold all in my skin, God all in my blood, kings all in my circle. You touch one of mine and you done. They show no love for the queen, why they hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans and I got